All right, well, we'll get started. We are going to be down to the wire today, so we don't want to waste too much more time here. So we want to thank everybody for joining us today and happy to see everybody again. I hope everyone's doing well. Today we're excited to welcome Tim Wiersma, Principal at Revenue Generation LLC and the Chair of the HSMAI Revenue Optimization Advisory Board. We're going to be discussing the state of San Diego's hospitality industry, included in the presentation. We've got some recent trends, forecasts, and insights on a local and industry perspective, and we'll be able to hear about some industry best practices and actionable approaches for everybody to use in their recovery efforts. So first, of course, I've got a couple housekeeping items. I do want to remind everyone that we'll be recording today's session and that will make the recording available to attendees in the next couple of days. We want to thank everybody who did donate to the chapter during registration. In order for us to keep these events free, everyone who can donate really has helped us keep that at a no or low cost for everyone else. So for every dollar that was donated, you'll receive an entry into our gratitude drawing, which will be held at the end of the program. And we're going to be doing it digitally. So we've never done that before, and it's going to be a test for all of us. But Julie is going to administer that at the end. She put everybody's names into a program, and it tells us who the winner is. So we're all on board for that one together. If you have any questions throughout the program, please add them into the chat, and I'll be monitoring that throughout the session and asking those questions at the end. So we will have everybody turn on their cameras at the end when we get to Q&A as well. But if you have a question as it comes up, you don't need to wait until the end. Just go ahead and get that into the chat, and we'll take care of that. We are looking for volunteers. We're working on our 2021 board of directors, and we've got a great board this year. Most are coming back, but we'd like to get the interest out there and see who else we can pull in, help with the community. So there was an email that went out earlier today. If you're interested in joining the board or committee, please let us know. This is also the 63rd year for the Adrian Awards. The Adrian Awards, if you're not aware, recognizes those in our industry and focuses on best practices, innovation, and community. So the entry period is open now and runs until December 1st, and you can send those nominations through adrianawards.hsmai.org or just search HSMAI Adrian Awards, and it's the first one that comes up. A little shameless plug here for our very own Craig Carbonier. We want to congratulate Craig for becoming a finalist in the San Diego Business Journal's 40 Next Top Business Leaders Under 40. Craig was nominated for his great work with our association and for his dedication on building our communications and marketing focus through our social media content. He was also recently awarded the 40 Under 40 from San Diego Metro Magazine. This recognition is very well deserved, and we're very proud of him. So congratulations, Craig. And he's on, so you guys can all throw that in the chat as well. We do have a great upcoming event next month with State of the Industry for San Diego Tourism Authority and Colibri Labs. And then in December, once we get all those nominations back for volunteers for the board, we'll be doing our Ugly Sweater social and board induction. To stay up to date with all of that information, newsletters, and any new events coming up, please make sure that you're following, that you are on our website. And obviously, all of you who are here today, your contact information is up to date, or you would not have received the link to log in. But as a reminder, as a lot of us are changing jobs or switching emails, please keep current with us by going to the website, clicking on subscribe, and providing your preferred email address. And this will keep you up to date with membership offers, mailings, newsletters, all of our events. So now it's time to meet our speaker. Whoops, moving my screens around, sorry. With more than 2 decades of experience in the hospitality industry, Tim Wiersma is recognized as a leader in revenue management. specializing in property and portfolio revenue management, sales, marketing, and distressed asset turnaround. He consistently delivers results for properties around the world. Over the course of his career, Tim has worked with all major brands and independent properties and held top-level positions at Host Hotels and Resorts, TPG Hospitality, Red Roof Group, Starwood Hotels, Canadian Hotel Income Properties, and has been a key advisor for Marriott International in sales and revenue management. Tim holds a BA in Business Administration and Finance. He's an active member of HSMAI and currently serves as on the board as chair of the Revenue Optimization Advisory Board. Say that 10 times fast. In spare time, Tim enjoys spending time with his family and friends and flying his Cessna 172, which you can see here in this picture. Tim, thanks so much for sharing your valuable time and knowledge with us today, and we really appreciate you being here. So I'll keep all the notes for you and questions and look forward to the presentation. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Heather. And that was not an easy bio to read, so you did it phenomenally. And you know, I'll try to make it easier for people in the future for sure.
We've just done so much.
Yeah, I got to do less. That's what I need to do right now for sure. So I'm going to very quickly switch screens here, if you don't mind. Okay, so in the next 40 minutes or so, I'm going to spend some time with you. We're going to go through a sentiment survey, just kind of get a sense of how you're feeling about the San Diego industry and about your careers and everything else. Then we'll go into US North America industry review, and then we'll get into the numbers for San Diego, the trends and forecasts, and then we'll talk about some key strategies from there. So Heather kind of teed it up nicely with that picture. I am a pilot and I enjoy flying when I'm not playing with revenue. And I do parallels through the presentation here today. We are, as an industry, definitely in what we call IMC, Instrument Meteorological Conditions, which really means we're in the clouds. We really can't see much in front of us. And as a student pilot of instrument, we are taught to rely 100% on your instruments to get you safely to the ground. And so we actually go into instrument conditions, or we put it, my instructor puts a hood over my head, and I literally have to fly the plane for an hour, hour and a half, just using the instruments. The picture below is of me and my nephew from Richmond. I go up there every once in a while, and we go flying just for fun. So let's start off with the sentiment survey, and I believe in the chat there's the code was listed for the Menti. So if you go to menti.com, and I see some of you are answering the questions already, that's great. If you go to menti.com and you put in the code 9268207, I think I started at the end of the survey. Let's try this again here. So you answered the last question. Let's see if we can get to the first question here. So what new hobbies have you started since COVID? Take just a few seconds to answer that. Coffee. Yes, I am with you. Lack of sleep drinking, gardening. I've definitely got into gardening this past summer. Reading, lots of reading. I'm surprised I don't see Netflix on here yet. Is there any Netflix people out there? Binge watching? Okay, paddleboarding, I like that one. Kayaking, yoga, hiking. Good stuff. Let's go on to the next question. How has COVID-19 affected you from an employment standpoint? Okay, looks like majority of you are still employed at this point, so that's great news. And for those that are furloughed or have been laid off, I'm wishing the best for you, and hopefully this situation will turn around soon, for sure. What is or was your current or your job title from your last position? So we have lots of sales people here. Market manager. There's some revenue managers in here. Saw Jackie Street just enter. Nice to see your name again, Jackie. Welcome. Okay, great. A good mix here, for sure. So in the next 6 months, how do you see business travel and meetings recovery trends? Are you feeling optimistic, mixed? Okay, so a lot of you are feeling mixed about the next 6 months, and it's no surprise. There's a lot of uncertainty out there yet, and just based on the other surveys that I've done across the country with other chapters, the results look very similar to this, for sure. It's nice to see some optimism out there as well. I hope your optimism comes true. At this point in the industry economic cycle, rate the importance of a revenue manager. Do we set it and forget it? No. Okay, that's pretty resounding. It's very crucial for the success of your company. Great, and we'll get into that and the importance of that. There's some data there as well. At this point in the pandemic, direct sales efforts are crucial, moderately important, or less crucial. Okay, so kind of mixed results there. We'll get into this as well, but sales is all about relationships, and maintaining relationships at this point are obviously very important in the sales cycle as well. What do you expect to be the #1 source of new reservations over the next 2 to 3 months? Okay, so it's split between direct and OTAs. That definitely coincides with other surveys that I've done as well. You have a great opportunity from a direct perspective there, and we'll get into that for sure. But definitely OTAs and your GDS are big partners in the recovery phase of this. Okay, next question. What level of marketing spend is your company planning on in the next 90 days? Nice to see some people actually increasing their spend. The last survey I did for Boston, nobody was increasing their spend. Quite a few were actually reducing or pretty much non-existent. So it's nice to see. It's obviously very important in a recovery phase as well. Question number 7, what's most important for your market to see a meaningful recovery?
He's gonna go grab something.
It's kind of a broad question, but a lot of it stems around restrictions and the lockdowns, business travel recovery, vaccine is big, travel stimulus package, definitely. Communication is big as well. Okay, next question. What new sources of data have you been looking at to analyze trends and forecasting the future? Yeah, a lot of different sources here. That's great. A lot of people have been paying attention to the TSA as well, the number of pass-throughs. Okay, great, thank you. And then what KPIs and or measures are most important for hotels at this point in the pandemic? So RevPAR index, occupancy, reviews, family, ADR. Cash flow. That really is important. GOP. Okay, great. That is the end of the survey. Let's go back to the presentation. So just starting off with the industry trends then. So STAR's been tracking the weekly trends and presenting them on their hotel news website. And I saw this chart recently. It goes through most of September, and we're starting to see a little bit of a recovery happening from an occupancy standpoint. We're above 50% now. We're consistently above 50%, but we're not growing further at this point, and there is uncertainty around when we're going to see a continuance of it, obviously. What's really interesting here and is very telling when you layer in the TSA checkpoint count and then you ratio that. So prior to the industry kind of shutting down in March, the ratio was in the 60s. And then you saw the decline happening. So the ratio right now is hanging in around 25%. So it just tells us that a majority of the occupancy that we have right now, they're not traveling by plane. They're driving in, and it's likely more leisure it is more leisure related for sure. This shows the weekly trends from a RevPAR percent change perspective. Again, the same time period, and then layering in the case count across the US.
Tim, hold on. We're not seeing your screen.
Oh, you're not?
No, once the Menti went off, it stopped sharing.
Okay, let me. Can you see it now?
Yes, there you go. Thank you.
I apologize for that. So this chart then, and by the way, I'll be sure to email this to Julie afterward, and she'll forward on this deck to everybody so you can see all the slides. But this slide here layers in the new COVID cases, and we saw a nice bump over the summer. I shouldn't say bump, but the percent decrease went down over the summer related to the leisure, but the industry is starting to see the percent increase or decrease, I should say, go back down again to pre-summer levels. And with the case count likely to move up in the next 6 weeks, we're not expecting to see any significant growth at all in RevPAR. From a profitability standpoint, started a survey year-to-date results for full service, and this includes the 3 months where we had normal occupancy levels. You can see that at this point we're barely making ends meet in the industry. EBITDA is at 257, and the year-to-date a year ago, we as an industry were at 71.21. This is for full service and luxury hotels. From a group demand standpoint, we're on a very slow climb. Really, we have a long way to go, obviously. All major conventions have canceled, and we're starting to see a little bit of a trend from a small meetings perspective, more so in the first quarter of next year. But again, that could change. There could be cancellations, and it could be kicked down the road even further there. So MMGY Global did a survey, and they asked the question, the likelihood of taking a trip, and they asked for leisure travelers, for business travel, for both domestic and international, and no surprises here. Likelihood of a leisure trip went up a little bit. It's at 41% right now. Business is pretty kind of hanging in the 20s still, 25% currently. And then obviously international travel is much lower just due to the number of restrictions for international travel to come to the United States. So. And then as far as how the other countries are doing, so you can see the US trend there against Europe and China. China's seen a pretty steady recovery, and a lot of their occupancy is right now has been domestic growth. A lot of us in different markets have experienced good business from China over the years, and now they're obviously very restricted as to where they can travel. So there is pent up demand for travel with the Chinese, and it's all domestic at this point. I was talking to one operator recently, and they're running in the 90% occupancies right now in China. And these are upper upscale and luxury properties. So travel is happening, but it's happening in their own country at this point. And then travel by region, ignore the arrow. So for the Pacific region, weekly travel spend, the Pacific is not, is trending better than the other regions of the country. So that's encouraging for you guys. but no significant increases there yet. The University of Michigan puts out a consumer sentiment survey, and what that really means is they survey consumers, and they're looking for their confidence level in spending during different times. And you can see this is, spans all the way back to 2001. So you can see the major decline in overall confidence at this point. It's gone down to 70 and will likely go down even further. Consumers have, the ability to spend, but their confidence right now, with the uncertainty of their jobs, with the uncertainty of the economy, right now prohibits them from doing so. Obviously, safety plays into that as well. MMGY also, I saw this recently, and I thought this was really important, societal mindset. So when COVID first happened, there was a lot of fear, a lot of misunderstanding as to what it was all about. We're still learning. So right now we're almost in the fear, but trying to understand phase. There's some action happening, obviously, but down the road, we'll start seeing more rational behavior, adjustments, and then obviously, hopefully with the vaccines coming in place, we'll see us get back to some normalcy again. Skift did a survey a while back, and they asked the question, when do you expect COVID to be under control? And you can see the number of consumers who believe COVID would be under control. They thought initially at the end of the year, but when you look at more recent surveys, the confidence is building that it'll be into next year, probably Q2 to later next year. And then planned travel, same question. When do you plan to travel after the restrictions are lifted? Not a lot of people are, initially they were more confident about traveling almost immediately afterward. Now they're looking at a 6-month to a 12-month or even greater time period before they are going to travel again, especially with business travel. MMGY also did a safety survey, and the good news is the safety, customers are starting to feel more comfortable about staying in a hotel, and also vacation rentals. You can see the progression back in late March. They were at a low of, well, actually in April, they're a low of 27. And then slowly the confidence is growing again. We'll get into some data on Airbnb as well, short-term rentals. But consumers are definitely looking at short-term rentals now more than they have ever before, as a potential way of traveling safely. USTA came out with a survey recently, and they were surveying travel trends to US national parks. And the interesting point here is the number of people traveling and the distances that they're traveling. 2/3 of them have traveled more than 200 miles to reach a national park. This bodes well from a leisure standpoint when we think about who we're marketing to. We can certainly look outside our normal drive markets and consider, in your case, maybe even consider looking at Northern California or surrounding states. So the latest forecast at this point, Smith Travel Research put out So 29 or in 2019, the RevPAR was $87. This year, their forecast would go all the way down to 41. Next year, the recovery begins to happen, but still will be down about 34%. They're not forecasting a full recovery to 2019 levels until 2024. And how they view it and how the industry is viewing it, the anatomy of the recovery. We're in obviously phase number 1 right now, where we're seeing that leisure. We'll eventually start seeing some leisure customers flying in. We're starting to see that already. In Q1 of next year, we'll start seeing some small meetings happen, more essential meetings, and regional, international, and then the final phase, which they say is Q2, I would guess that it would actually be pushed back even further than that. So it would probably be more like Q3, Q4 of next year, where we start seeing the larger events starting to recover again. So just getting into the data for the San Diego market, it's really going to recover differently based on the markets and the amount of transient share that you have and the domestic share. So in the case of San Diego, you're in the upper left quadrant, which means you're going to recover a little bit faster than some other markets. You've got a strong domestic share. However, your group share is a little bit larger than quite a few markets. And obviously the group market is going to recover. It's one of the last segments to recover. So you're hampered a little bit by that. But we've seen some decent signs already, so it might not be as long as what we expect there. So speaking of that, from a supply standpoint, we're seeing a really good recovery of rooms coming back online again. We're almost back to pre-COVID levels from a supply standpoint, which is nice to see. Demand is slow, but it's steady. And just looking at the recovery, you can see a bunch of ups and downs, but the median is definitely moving up there, and it's nice to see from an ADR perspective. When I compare this against other markets, you guys are pretty agile with your ADR and maximizing, and to the point of is important to have revenue management at this phase. It's very important. You can see that when your demand spiked, that your ADRs also went up there. So congratulations for really managing that the best you can in this environment. So CBRE did in August, they did a recent forecast for your market. And they're forecasting your RevPAR to be down almost 60% in 20. And then you can see the recovery phase. Again, you're not fully recovered until 2024. I look back at the last downturn and looked at some of these numbers across the US in various different markets. And I noticed, both STAR and CBRE are a little conservative, and rightfully so, because of the unknowns out there. And in the last recovery, we recovered faster than what they were projecting at this point in the cycle. You can see off to the left-hand side, the different hotel types. So upper price hotels are going to have a little bit longer recovery. That's going to happen more towards the late 23 into 24. Lower priced hotels will recover faster. These are the economy, extended stay properties, and the mid-priced kind of follows the same line as what the upper price hotels are. And then short-term rentals, just some trends here. You can see the The overall occupancy right now is at 66%. Supply went down about 20%. I believe it's not on this chart here, but it was close to 20% year over year. The ADR went as low as 156, and right now it's running at 198. You can see the rental types. So a majority of the rentals right now are in the studio, 1 and 2 bedrooms. So think about that. And, are there ways that you can attract that customer into your hotels as well? Star also did a survey recently and asked the question, why COVID? What influenced your decision not to book? And a lot of these, the first 5 or 6 are pretty obvious. The inconvenience, the fear factor. Obviously, those are uncontrollables that we can't really control, but some of the controllable aspects, so lack of confidence in destinations. So you as an association, as a CVB, can think about that. And, obviously, I'm sure that you're working on it right now, helping to build the confidence, especially with the customers that are coming in right now, making sure that they feel safe, but also small meetings, making it easy, making the planners feel confident that going to San Diego will be a safe experience for their delegates coming in. Concern with cleanliness is still pretty high up there. And then just, financial reasons due to COVID. So think about that from a pricing standpoint during periods when you don't have high demand. So some of the takeaways. We're going to have to prepare for a long recovery. It's not likely to be a V-shaped recovery. It's going to be lumpy. It's going to look more like a bunch of squiggles, but generally moving in up in the back to the 2019 levels. And again, it's probably going to be 23, 24 before we see full recovery. Group demand is going to be slow and less predictable. So focus on the feeder markets and essential meetings package. Make it easy for the planner to book your hotel. Address any of the concerns that they have and communicate with them often to reassure them. KPIs have changed. So I saw a lot of RevPAR, a lot of occupancy indices up there, but just speaking with the board, with HSMAI, revenue optimization, the revenue folks there are also very focused on profitability, channel profitability, acquisition costs are playing a big factor right now as they move forward. And also customers are more willing to cross over into short-term rentals, more so now than ever before. I've had plenty of conversations with people, and a lot of people are still just uncomfortable with the uncertainty of going into hotels, walking through public spaces, going into restaurants. They'd rather have the safety of going into their own individual unit, making their own meals. So that's still definitely a concern out there. Consumer sentiment, uncertainty has increased and will likely continue to go down further as the number of cases go up. So really focus in on the messaging and what you can do to influence that customer to try to help them gain some confidence that if they decide to travel, they have the flexibility, and they have, you have safety in mind for them. Drive stats, we just looked at, look at the longer distance, the drive markets that you're in right now. Also look at your competitive sets, expand your competitive sets right now, and maybe look at some of the leisure players in your market and try to understand the trends that are happening in those properties as well. Pricing, just following your weakest competitor to the bottom also may make a statement about your hotel. Consumers are looking at pricing, but they're looking at safety and experience when they get to their destination right now. So pricing almost becomes secondary. So if you're not aligned with that, you could possibly be losing ADR share there for sure. In silos, we talk about a lot over the years of breaking down the silos between the disciplines of revenue management, sales, and marketing. Especially in this environment, silos cannot exist, and they shouldn't ever exist. Revenue management plays a really strong role in providing strategic analysis, providing the right data, and communicating those opportunities to both sales and marketing. And let data really drive your decisions right now. There's a lot of uncertainties out there. There's a lot of emotion out there right now. Take the emotion out of it and really focus on the short and midterm forecast and ensure that your forecasts are comprehensive, make sure they're frequent, and they're flexible to address several different scenarios. There is so much uncertainty around forecasting right now. So the more data that you can apply to the forecast, do so. Insist on it with your revenue management folks for sure. And if you need help with that, I work with a lot of clients right now in helping them with forecasting techniques and providing the tools necessary. Other things to know, align your marketing strategy with revenue management. We kind of talked about that already. Implement, continue to be flexible with the cancellation policy. Advanced purchase rates, probably not the way to go right now, but provide that assurance to the customer. Own in on the right audience and customer personas. Really pay attention to those customer surveys and make sure that your messaging reflects their concerns. Market to guests and groups that have canceled, communication with them, that they want to hear from you. They want to know that you're working with them, that you're flexible, and that you're still top of mind, making sure that you're out there with that. And then focus on the right offers and the right messaging at this point. Data, there's a lot of different sources of data out there, CVBs, airline data, broader star track data, again, expanding your competitive set, but also paying attention to the tracked and the market data. OTA Insights has some great reports they've produced lately. A lot of them are free. CBRE, TravelClick, and others. So if you need help with that, again, just let me know. I can certainly provide some insight for you there. Feeder markets, study the origin segments, more recent origin segments, and see if there's opportunity to attract new customers from where you're seeing them come in. Market existing and new business. We already talked about that. Just broadening your competitive set and really studying your competitors that you wouldn't normally, in a normal environment, that you wouldn't compete with. See if there's opportunity there. And then just paying attention to the messaging that your competitors have out there, and come up with your own unique and distinct messaging from a marketing perspective. And just a reminder, we're all in this together, and it won't be like this forever. We will see a recovery. It seems, right now it's very difficult to see the future, but the recovery is happening, and we'll gain confidence as soon as the data starts coming out, and as customers get used to the new normal. We'll start seeing travel come back again for sure. And from a pilot's perspective, kind of paying attention to the instruments in the plane, there's no greater feeling than when you break out of the clouds and you can see the runway in front of you, and you have basically accomplished your mission of landing that airplane safely onto the runway. So together we can do this. So that's the end of my presentation. I just wanted to open it up and ask if you have any questions for me. Julie, if you want to even just turn on people's cameras, allow them to turn on their cameras, and feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions.
Yeah, there were a couple questions that came in, but everybody, please feel free to turn your camera on if you can. If you have one, unmute if you'd like to. The first question was from Karen, wondering about occupancy in China. Karen, did you want to go over your question, or do you want me to read that?
Well, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, good. So today it came out that that Wuhan, and especially Wuhan, but cities in China saw a huge V-shaped recovery in both occupancy and ADR equal to 2019. Shocking, I think, but hopeful, also optimistic. So we've been kind of going on some of this bad news in the last 3 or 4 weeks, and then that came out today, and I think that that's a bright light. Of course, Chinese travel a lot in their Golden Week, but I didn't know if that was something we could comment on.
Yeah, that's encouraging, and thanks for the question, Karen. I believe part of their success in their recovery is the level of domestic travel they have right now, and their ability to they really did a better job, I think, of managing the number of cases. I know it was really difficult in the beginning, but they seem to be doing better, and confidence is coming back faster than even what they expected. So that's encouraging news, and that's hope for us in the industry as well. I think once we have a vaccine and we start seeing the number of cases going down, we could see a little bit faster recovery, but we have a long way to go there yet, for sure.
Thanks, Karen. Another question came in from Lorraine, and I agree with this one. Lorraine, do you want to ask your question, or I can do it for you if you're not able to?
Right. Lorraine's mic is down, so
yeah,
please read it for her.
So her question is about group meetings, and I was kind of doing this same thing the last couple of days, and so she's asking, when is it appropriate to reach out to clients about holding meetings and when meetings are coming back? Some clients are really eager to gather and to plan, even if San Diego is not allowed to hold them at this time. What is the best way to avoid offending a client, to ask them if they're ready to travel, or at the same time, you don't want to offend them by not reaching out to see, how they're doing or when they might be looking to travel again?
Yeah, well, first off, I'm a revenue, I'm a data guy, I'm not a salesperson. I'll be the first to admit that. But when I talk to clients, first and foremost, it's all about relationships. So when when COVID happened, I still kept reaching out to people, knowing, okay, I understand you're in the middle of a crisis, and you're laying off tons of people, and you can't see 2 inches in front of you at this point. So obviously making any decisions at this point don't make any sense. And in a sense, you're at that phase in San Diego as well. But they're starting to think about the future, and you want to start that dialogue with them. Maybe it's not concrete at this point as to when they can nail down a date, but they still want to have, feedback that I've had in talking to sales professionals is they still want to have that conversation, and they want to understand what you're doing to help them, so that when it comes time for them to book that essential meeting, that you'll be top of mind, and they'll understand what you're doing to help them out, to make it as easy as possible. Yeah.
Great. Now I had a couple questions actually that I think relate to a lot of us here as far as the short-term rental increase goes, since most of us are hotels or working with guests that are staying in hotels. Are you seeing in the data that that booking window is relatively short as well when they're going into a short-term rental? And of course, with them being mostly 1 and 2 bedrooms, is this couples traveling together or smaller families?
Yeah, so it's both family travel and individual travel or couples. And yes, definitely. I don't have the data on the presentation, but the booking window is shortened considerably. I could speak for North Carolina here. On the coast, they had a really busy summer, but when you looked at it at the beginning of June, there was a lot of vacancies on the coastal and also the mountain regions for vacation rentals. But as confidence started building in later June, people started snatching up those short-term rentals. And I think we're just, for both hotels, obviously, and short-term rentals at this point, it's still very short-term booking window, and probably will be that way for the next 6 months to a year.
Yeah, it also seems like flexible cancellation policies are much more important to the consumer compared to the rate that they're paying to get it. Is that right?
That's for sure. And that's an advantage because some owners are less flexible. Once they receive the deposit, they're more hesitant to refund them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an opportunity for hotels to, tout the flexibility in booking.
Great. Another thing I was curious about too, and you mentioned June in North Carolina. Have you seen, most of us in the recovery stage right now are seeing a lot of travel coming in from Drive Market. Have you seen that radius changing to, into a larger zone since June, or are we about the same?
Yeah, probably about the same. I mean, air travel is just, we're still only a small number of people traveling at this point. And you saw the ratios on the slides there. So in conversations that I've had with other chapters, individuals in there, they're definitely seeing their drive radius increase. I know we would normally, like my wife and I go to DC once in a while, we would normally catch a flight there, but we're willing to drive 4.5 hours at this point to go there and not willing to get on an airplane. And I think that's the case for most people. If they can drive there within 4 to 6 hours, they're more willing to do that than hop on an airplane.
Mm-hmm. Understood. Well, great. Thanks so much, Tim. Does anybody else have any last questions at all? No? All right. Well, I'm going to hand it over to Julie and see how this electronic drawing is going to work out.
Well, I'm going to share my screen.
Everyone bear with us. This is our first time.
So everyone that donated, you see your name is here. And I'm just going to pick this button and we're going to see who wins. Oh, you got to get all the garbage. And the lucky winner is Lorraine Ladusky.
Yay!
Yay, Lorraine. I will be in touch with you tomorrow to see what you would like your $25 gift card to be. Yeah. I know her microphone's down.
She has a woohoo, thank you. For everybody else, we will continue to do this. Every little donation that you can provide to the association really does help us. And we'll be offering a $25 gift card of your choice. So just let us know, Lorraine, where you want that to be from, and we'll get it out to you. I thought for sure it was going to be Sylvia when I saw her name on there. Sylvia wins everything. All right, well, thanks everybody. We really appreciate you being here, and we will see you again in November.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you.